And today we're going to start by using these odd leg calipers. They're excellent for drawing a parallel line to an edge, and for this particular job they're invaluable. As you can see here, I'm scribing a line on a piece of metal, the exact width of the original stays. Can't help but think that my old tutor would have screamed at me, "Stop scratching. You should only be drawing one line. How are you going to know which line to work to if you keep scratching them?" But then he always had fresh metal, not some discoloured piece of plate that was lying up against the wall for the last 6 months. Sometimes the real world can be different. Anyway, with the line scribed, I'm using my small little bench shear to cut a strip for making the mudguard stays out of. 2 of the original were rusted through and the ends missing off, you know, where the hole bolts to the mudguard. So a while back there I made up a special tool for forming the stays, and already it's coming into use. Here I'm concentrating on getting a nice clean cut down the line. Now, using the original stay as a reference, I'm transferring the length and also the swage line, the fuller, would you call it a fuller, down the middle of the strip, so as it doesn't impede on the 2 eyes at the end. Thankfully I got enough material here to do both. And then it was over to the press tool under the fly press. Sorry about the camera jumping around. Of course the table moves when you use a fly press. There's a fair bit of power in these things. Didn't register that the vibration would be shaking the camera all over the place. But it's a simple case of just feeding it through, creating the fuller down its length to make it stiffer. There you can see a further away shot, so that the tool in action. And that was followed by drilling the holes on the ends. Again, simple job, little pillar drill. Drill the holes through. Sadly, with the way the world is at the moment, it's actually beneficial to make these yourself rather than purchasing them. You end up purchasing them, paying twice as much for the postage, and when they arrive you probably could have made them better anyway. So there you have it, 2 new, 2 old. After that, fork gaiters. These are a pain in the bum. I bought some what I thought would be mid-range quality. They were ranging from, I think they were ranging from €6 to €30 for a pair. I got these for the first set, shall we say, for around 12, and at the first attempt they split. Quality wasn't there, so I took it in my head I'd get the cheap ones, try and figure out a way of putting them on without destroying them. And this is the solution I came up with. First of all, I made up a tapered little bit of plastic there, warmed them up with a hot air gun and pushed them up the taper onto the final size of the plastic. Let them cool down and they actually held their shape. Again, with the small end a little bit tight, so I warmed it up with a hot air gun. My trick here is when you point the air gun, keep the part moving and warm it up until it just starts to sort of gloss over no more than that, and then you'll have the right temperature for it to be soft and supple. And then it's a simple case then of just sliding it down over the spring and onto the actual fork leg. This next bit is the bit where you split them. Trying to get them over this socket on the end of the fork leg is bloody difficult. I tried several methods, as you can see, poking the scriber in and winding it round, trying to slide it up. But to be honest, patience again is the key. Eventually you'll wiggle it on, and then with a pair of pliers you can drag it up. Of course, using the pliers you've got to be very careful that you just don't rip it and tear it. But as you can see there, it slipped back on me, the pig. Try not to get annoyed, which isn't easy. But just keep working your way round and pulling it up. See, finally get there. Now it's just a simple case of wriggling it up the piece until it's in place. Again, I tried an aluminium welding rod here to sort of stretch one side so you could get a bit of movement on it, do away with the friction where it's rubbing on the fork leg. I'm sure there's someone out there who's got a dead easy way of doing this. Please, please, please put it in the comments below for us. Otherwise I'll be fuming. Anyway, eventually got them on, and as you can see here, I'm using these stainless steel cable ties to fasten the bottom end of them. I don't think the originals have these, but they look so much better if they're sort of put in place. Pull it tight and then just snip it. They're terrific. If you can't snip it all the way through, just mark it enough, and then you can wiggle it backwards and forwards and it will work hard and snap off like that. Same on the other side. For the top of these though, they have a little chrome clamp, or in this case they'll be stainless, that clamps the gaiter to the fork leg using the grease nipple to hold it all in place. I'll show you next how I made those. Let me just get through this bit first. Right, the clamps. First of all, I got a bit of 3/4 square stock and cut a groove in it. Doesn't have to be super accurate or anything, so I just used an angle grinder with a cutting disc in it. Took a bit of experimentation to find the width of the groove that I needed. The first attempt here, the groove was a bit narrow, and I used a bolster to actually put the clamping section in place, and the bolster was a bit thin, didn't give you the radius that you needed to hold the the piece of stainless around the rib at the top of the gaiter. But you can see the principle here. This was the first experiment. Drive the stainless strip into the groove you cut in the square stock, and that will give you the little rounded clamp on the end of the tab. As you can see here, I opened up the groove a bit more, ended up about 5mm wide, and I got an old cold chisel and rounded it over so that it would leave a rounder impression. But the actual use of the tool stayed the same. You just drive the bit of stainless strip into the groove to give you the radius on the tab that you need. Don't go nuts because it can go too deep. And there we have it. That's just the first stage, shall we say. Then trim off the bits that don't fit so that it becomes the tab. You know, remove the tab from the metal and you end up with those. Polish them back and give them a bit of file to take all the sharp edges off and around the corners so that they don't tear the actual gaiter. And here you can see me placing it so I can mark where to drill the hole so that it clamps the top of the gaiter. The original gaiters were on this, but they were all perished and horrible. Have a rib running around the top that this little clamp clamps over, but these gaiters didn't have that little rib. So what I did was just use the tab to dig in, and to be honest, they're on there so tight they don't really need the tabs, but they're meant to be there, and I'm sure people would complain if they didn't see the little shiny bit on the end of the fork leg. And again the other side, exactly the same principle. Using the grease nipple to hold the tab in place, the little clamp. Oops. There we go. Nope, nope. As you can see, they're fighting me all the way. And of course, once they're all screwed up and in place, do up the top nuts, make everything in a nice alignment. But there you have it. Try and imagine the gaiters with a little rib running around the top edge. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.